Bibliophiles of the internet, my name's Adriana, and today I'm here with my top 5 science fiction and fantasy books written by POC authors. I don't know if my fellow judges or anyone else who's done this topic has made this distinction, but for me it's very important to clarify that I'm here to discuss SFF works written by POC authors, not just SFF titles that happen to include POC characters. Listen, I'm not here to award cookie points to white authors or other similarly privileged authors who are already praised all over the internet for single-handedly diversifying the genre and for being so progressive when in fact they're actually doing the absolute bare minimum by merely including marginalized characters and acknowledging that white characters are not the only people who exist. POC authors built this freaking castle. They've been doing incredible, difficult, necessary work for years that doesn't receive nearly as much recognition, respect, and appreciation as it deserves. Today, I'm here to support their voices and their work. So let's start off easy and get the obvious out of the way because of course I recommend absolutely anything written by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is queen and she explicitly centers characters of color and communities of color in every single one of her books. And I think what makes her work stand out is the fact that her characters and the worlds they occupy have such nuance because there's a complete upheaval of that traditional Eurocentric patriarchal society starting with the actual world building itself. The focal point of all her characters' stories and their individual arcs is not the fact that they're trying to overcome racism. They are who they are and they have much bigger problems than the fact that they're not male or they're not white. Jemisin shows that people of color, especially women of color, can be the hero in their own story and that there's so much more complexity to them besides just focusing on the color of their skin. But at the same time, her stories bring that much needed representation. Every single one of her books also explicitly explores systematic oppression and corrupt institutions. Her stories challenge the way things have always been done and show that change is possible, though not without considerable loss and sacrifice. Next, I want to talk about 9 Foxx Gambit by Yoon Lee. The basic premise of 9 Foxx is the realest shit I've ever heard. It's all about an empire that's literally powered by collective belief. When everyone follows the same leaders, believes the same stories and myths, observes the same holidays and holy days, acknowledges the same societal ideals, it literally powers their society. Conversely, when some citizens stray away from that or refuse to conform, a phenomenon called calendrical rot occurs wherein the empire's technology, structures, and military defenses begin to go haywire and power down. In this story, a bout of calendrical rot has been brought upon by a group of heretics who have overtaken a key military fortress. Calchetis, a renowned soldier, is sent on a mission to reclaim that fortress, but on the condition that she share her body with an undead master tactician named Shuos Judeo, who may or may not have massacred his entire army when he was still alive. Honestly, there's no way anything or anyone can strip away the importance of this book. Yes, a lot of it is metaphorical and imprecise, but that's also the beauty of it. And as the author has mentioned, the story also inadvertently allows Yoon Lee to explore his experiences as a trans man, because here you have a female character whose body is partially being occupied by an undead man. When Chetis sees her shadow or looks in a mirror, she sees Judeo staring back. She can hear his voice in her mind, and there's a stunning dream sequence of sorts where she actually occupies his body and takes on his identity, including his pronouns and his memories, where she actually becomes him. And those scenes are legend. They rocked me to my core. Just thinking about them gives me chills to this day. Next up, I have Sorcerer to the Crown by Zen Cho. This amazing book is all about intersections and marginality. It's just a wonder to behold, and it's about a character named Zacharias who is the first ever African Sorcerer Royal, and his job is to oversee everything relating to England's use of magic. Of course, England's relationship with France is tense, and suddenly their magic supply has gone scarce, and the administration is more than happy to blame Zacharias. Now he must investigate why the flow of magic between the fairy world and England has been halted, and he also comes across an unlikely comrade named Prunella who is forbidden from doing magic just because she is a woman, and together these two social outcasts have to find a way to solve this magical political crisis. First off, I just want to point out that I made an entire spoiler-free discussion about how this story excels at exploring the intersections of privilege, race, and gender, especially when it comes to socialization, opportunity, and productivity in the workplace. I just think it's funny how Zacharias' work and ethics are always called into question and how they're always up for debate, whereas his white colleagues are not, which is kind of not a coincidence. And many of the men in high society blame Zacharias for all of their problems, whether it's logical or not, and they want to expel him from office simply because he's black. So you can see how their prejudice against him dispels any possibility of trust. But then you see that flipped on itself once Prunella is introduced, because she's marginalized even further than Zacharias as a woman of color, and as a woman of color who can do magic, which is seen as a much worse abomination. So you can really see how opportunity and privilege are always relative, and how people of color are expected to do 200% more work to rail against their oppressors while also just trying to prove themselves worthy of existence. Penultimately, I have to mention the School for Good and Evil series by Soman Chainani. What I love about this series is that it's a fun, adventurous, clever fairy tale that pokes fun at the entire convention of fairy tales. It's about two best friends, Sophie and Agatha, who are kidnapped and taken to the School for Good and Evil, a school that helps kids discover their roles in their own fairy tales, whether they are the hero, the villain, the sidekick, or something else. As it turns out, Sophie is placed in the School for Evil and Agatha is placed in the School for Good. Both of them think this is a horrible mix-up, but once they spend more time there, they learn to embrace their own stories. If nothing else, you should definitely read this series for its focus on the school element. It really gets into the courses these students have to take, their academic requirements, the extracurricular activities and challenges they have to participate in. It's brilliantly imagined and it's just fantastic. But this series really has a motley cast of characters who are all struggling on some level to figure out who they are and where they belong. So at its core, I think it's really about young people resisting the paths, roles, and expectations set before them. Children are often treated like shrubbery planted within a topiary frame, and once they grow beyond the boundaries surrounding them, they're cut down until they fit between the lines, which is to say they're preened to fulfill certain roles and they're never truly free to grow. The same sort of thing happens with Sophie and Agatha. Growing up, they both had certain expectations placed upon them, either because of where they came from or what they looked like, and once they're able to try things they were never allowed to try before, they're able to truly come into their own. The story is, of course, also about blurring the lines between what it means to be good and what it means to be evil, and recognizing that both of these things have infinitely more facets than you would expect. And finally, I have to show some love for How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe by Charles Yu. This is a delightful blend of sci-fi and metafiction about a character named Charles Yu who lives in Minor Universe 31, where time travel exists and there is ample accessibility to time machines. Every day people go back in time to try and change a pivotal moment in their lives, and Charles' job as a time machine technician is to prevent paradoxes and literally save these people from themselves. At the same time, he's searching for his father, who actually invented time travel, fell into a deep depression, and subsequently vanished from time altogether. This book is massively underrated. Charles Yu's sense of humor is so refreshing. He's basically writing this futuristic wonderland where all of the zany, bizarre inventions we could ever imagine actually exist, but the main character isn't enamored with them. In fact, he finds them to be mundane. But really, this story is about cycles. Cycles of grief, cycles of suffering, cycles of loss, cycles of self-doubt. All of the main characters, including Charles, are listless. They lack drive or purpose, and they're constantly obsessing over these moments where everything went wrong and where allegedly their lives could have been different. So it's really about those recursive paths of obsession that the mind traces if we allow it to, and how that in itself can become its own prison. But also the writing is just next level, because there are pages and pages of musings on metaphysics, space travel, technology, but Charles Yu makes it feel so accessible because he really taps into the emotion and humanity behind those sciences and those who practice them. The entire thing is just an extraordinary feat. There were obviously so many more amazing POC authors I could have mentioned on this list, like Roshni Chokshi, Renee Ahdieh, Julie Kagawa, Kaya Shante Wilson, Nnedi Okorafor, Silvia Moreno Garcia, Daniel Jose Older, and Octavia Butler, just to name a few. That said, those were the top 5 SFF books written by POC authors that I wanted to recognize today. In the comments below, let me know if you plan to read any of these books, or if you have any recommendations for me based on this topic. Feel free to hit me up. But that is everything I had for this top 5 today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page. Bye.